cut. Roadwork infrastructure is not going to be negatively impacted. To be mowed and maintained. No cuts to library hours. No cuts to clinical health services, something that's absolutely important to me. Absolutely, state cuts, tariffs, Trump administration reductions have been challenging. But despite those challenges, our work to make available more affordable housing will not be cut. ARPA programs, early childhood, apprenticeship, still operational through next year as always intended. Smart uses of money, for example, pollution control investments of $195,000 will be made into their lab, which will allow us to cut $400,000 in contracts to outside lab services. Switching $860,000 to be exact, of clinical services, clinical service expenses to an existing state revenue fund, so we'll let someone else carry the tab. And then we will also take a look at all elements where cost savings are available and are now a more efficient and effective way to run the county. This is absolutely, as I mentioned earlier, where experience matters. Collaboration and building coalitions matters. This is how you govern. You work together, you sit at the table together, you roll your sleeves up together, and you make decisions together. Others may come to work and expect to get their way on their pet priorities, but aren't ready to do the work. This has been a process that has required a lot of work from my office and partners such as Commissioner Briones, so that we, over the course of the last 8 months, not last few weeks, but 8 months, have been working through this and doing that and more. We didn't just expect others to fall in line. That's not how governing works. We don't always get our way. I don't always get my way. However, it takes maturity and willingness to find compromise to get things done. Working in the middle is the best place to get things done. In spite deficit challenges, we're still able to expand HART to countywide. In Precinct 2, this means that an area that needs HART, for example, like Cloverleaf, will now start to receive those services that will allow deputies to focus on the more violent and more serious events, while HART employees will be able to take care of the non-violent type of incidents. This will free up our law enforcement to take care of us, to keep us safe, and very proud of the work that they are doing. So that's when collaboration is at the forefront, and this is how work and things get done and decisions together are made as a collaborative, as a coalition, as partners in government. And so now I'm excited to introduce Commissioner Lesley Briones.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, for your partnership, and thank you to all of the county departments, especially our Director of our budget, Daniel Ramos, for the months of hard work that has gone in as we prepare our fiscal year 2026 budget. The way I think of it, this is smart, strategic budgeting. We all know we have a deficit, and what we have done is lean in to being solutions-oriented, finding ways we could do more with less, finding those savings. Some would like you to believe that the sky is falling. There will be devastating cuts in this dystopian universe. False. On the contrary, again, because rolling up the sleeves and doing the hard work, we have identified key areas where we can continue delivering key priority core county services, but do it more effectively and efficiently. I have many priorities. Public safety is my top priority, and that's why I have been very proud to support the pay parity for our law enforcement officers, for our sheriff, deputies, and all ranks, as well as our 8 constables and all of their deputies. Because we know that with the city of Houston raising law enforcement officers' pay 36.5%, we are losing our officers because they can get paid more in another agency. Not on our watch, because it's affecting all of our safety. We want to make sure we have the deputies staying here in Harris County to respond to calls for you and your families. We also want to make sure we're being as smart and strategic about public safety. HART is something Commissioner Garcia just mentioned, and I feel deeply passionate about. We brought it in-house, and we're able to identify savings so that it was budget neutral to expand it from just 2 districts to county-wide. What this does is if someone calls 911 in a state of crisis, addiction, they're connected to someone trained in mental health. That is a win for that person who can get connected to services, mental health counseling, employment, housing, etc. And it's a win for our law enforcement because they can double down on violent crime and responding more quickly. We have also been laser focused, in addition to public safety, on public infrastructure, which is a fundamental responsibility Harris County must deliver to you and your families. Whether it is our flood mitigation capital projects, our flood maintenance, building sidewalks, increasing efficiencies in how we clean the ditches so that your homes are better protected during the next flood or hurricane. The way we are helping to expand access to green space for your physical health, mental health, and for our environment. As Commissioner Garcia said, make sure you are listening to the actual facts. All of our parks will continue as usual, which I believe Harris County delivers an excellent level of service for parks. Our community centers continue as usual. Public health, our infrastructure, and our numerous county departments. In terms of public health, I have many priorities. As a former teacher, we know, right? We need to make sure our kids and our families are healthy and that we're not only treating the symptoms, but more importantly, the prevention. So whether that is our community mobile clinics that will absolutely be preserved and continue serving, immunizations, we administer approximately 55,000 immunizations a year. All of that will continue. And then disaster readiness. I know we're all tracking storms on our phones, and with the devastating cuts that Trump has made to FEMA, the National Weather Service, and NOAA, Harris County is doubling down because we are your first responders and front line of defense. So rest assured that by putting in the months of hard work, working closely with departments, finding strategic ways to reallocate, reinvest, use a different funding source, we have been able to close that gap. I'll give you some examples. And again, I take this very seriously. And to Commissioner Garcia's point, to me, raising taxes is a last resort. We have to put in the work to see what we can do to be more strategic and more effective with what we have. I grew up check to check. I never wanted for anything, but I remember what it was like when you were just waiting for that next paycheck. So again, it is up to us as your elected officials to make sure that we're being smart and strategic. So let me just give you a couple of examples. Technology, making sure we're purchasing it through our universal services, our IT department, rather than different departments purchasing. We get better pricing and that creates savings. Close the gap. In terms of landlines, switching them onto one service, savings. We have had vacancies that have been open and vacant for hundreds of days. These are positions that there has not been any urgency to fill, and they've been open hundreds of days. Again, we're not cutting any folks that are here. We're not making any freezes, but these are positions that aren't needed. Again, finding those efficiencies and where we can reallocate. And there's various other examples that you'll hear about today as to, again, smart strategic budgeting. So in sum, we take our roles as your fiduciaries, every taxpayer dollar, we take it really seriously. And I'm always looking for these both-and solutions and these both-and investments, because that's what our families deserve, that you have hardworking people serving you, listening to you. And thank you to all of you who came to our budget town halls and listening sessions, took our survey. We are listening, and we will do the work to make sure that we are honoring what you prioritize. And rest assured, Harris County, we will continue to be strong, resilient, and continue the progress that we are making together. So again, Commissioner Garcia, thank you so much. Thank you to our Budget Director, Daniel Ramos, and to all of our teams who, again, for months have spent countless hours doing the hard work. Thank you.
I'll just say a brief word in Spanish for Spanish media. Estamos aquí solamente para hablar del presupuesto en cual estamos trabajando. Ese es un labor en cual la comisionada Briones, su servidor y otros hemos trabajado alrededor de 8 meses, casi un año, haciendo decisiones, viendo lugares en donde podemos encontrar eficiencias y donde podemos ahorrar dinero y pues cambiar quién paga ciertos servicios. Eso es lo que estamos haciendo con nuestro departamento de control de contaminaciones, nuestro departamento de salud, pero ese es un trabajo en cual hemos estuvido trabajando en nuestras oficinas, la comisionada Briones y yo, mi equipo, hemos trabajado viendo los detalles, estudiando cómo podemos encontrar modos de ahorrar dinero sin aumentar los impuestos de propiedad. Como dijo la comisionada, algunos te quieren hacer pensar que a lo mejor todo es un desastre, todo va mal, pero la mera verdad, cuando uno es maduro, llega a trabajar con sus colegas, llegan a levantar las mangas y trabajar en la mesa como un equipo, buenas decisiones se pueden lograr. Y eso es lo que yo y ella estamos listos para hacer hoy en día, protegiendo la seguridad pública. Esa es una prioridad sumamente importante para los dos, pero la comisaria Briones ha sido un campeona a través de mantener la seguridad pública. Entonces estamos para nomás hacerles recordar que experiencia llega a tener mucha razón. La comisaria Briones antes fue jefe de operaciones de una empresa. Esa es una experiencia que nos está sirviendo aquí en el condado. Yo cuando era concejal tuve que hacer decisiones difíciles. Cuando era el alguacil tuve que hacer decisiones difíciles, porque en esos años el presupuesto no era lo que uno esperaba. Pero seguimos manteniendo servicios, seguimos trabajando, cuidando la comunidad. Entonces, esa experiencia ambos lo estamos trayendo a esta mesa y vamos a seguir adelante sin aumentar los impuestos a la comunidad. Ahora, el dinero que se ha usado para, que se dice ARPA, ese dinero y los programas en cual ese dinero está programado al momento, va a seguir hasta el año que viene, como siempre se había decidido. Nada ahorita está cortado. Los servicios del condado no van a tener mayor impactos con este nuevo presupuesto. Las librerías van a seguir operando, los parques van a seguir siendo mantenidos. Entonces, el Departamento de Salud va a seguir haciendo su trabajo. Todas las cosas, las cuales son una prioridad para mi colega y yo, vamos a hacer esas decisiones como un equipo, maduros, inteligentes y usando nuestra experiencia. Gracias. Questions?
The judge's office mentioned some of the cuts that the commissioners will have to look at involve public libraries, juvenile diversion programs, veteran services. Are any of those services impacted? I know you all focused on law enforcement and public health initiatives.
Obviously, I think you asked the question right. We're looking at everything. Now, looking at it, does it mean that it's going to get cut? No. We're using our experience. We're going to make smart, strategic decisions. And library hours, as I mentioned earlier, are not being cut. That's something that you've seen other governments do. We're not doing it. Parks sometimes get put to the wayside. That is something that is a pride and joy to both of us. That's not going to be happening. Parks will continue to be maintained. So we're looking at everything. That's what we've been doing for the last 8 months. And working together, rolling our sleeves up. But I think today we'll be able to give the budget director good guidance on how to close that budget, how to find efficiencies, and how to get a balanced budget done. Commissioner?
Yes, and I'd like to add to that, there has been substantial amount of misinformation. So what is true is that we asked all Harris County budgets to present a 90% budget. Them, as experts of each of their departments, to find these efficiencies, whether it's the way they buy computers, whether it's landline to the centralized phone subscription, those sorts of vacancies that have been open hundreds of days, that they just don't need that position anymore because we've streamlined work. And so each department in the driver's seat has been able to suggest where they could use money more wisely and where they could be more strategic. Smart budgeting, again. And so this is not, and again, this is where there's been a lot of misinformation, this is not a unilateral, absolute 10% cut. False. What it is a menu of options and opportunities to be more efficient with your tax dollars that have been suggested by each department. But again, I want to reiterate that no core services on my watch will be cut. On the contrary, we will put in countless hours, as we already have and will continue to do, to again find those efficiencies. And so please, we ask the community, we so appreciate y'all's interest in this and partnership and feedback, but know that no core services will be cut and they will all continue.
Can you talk a little bit about law enforcement races? I know the deputies want more money and they've posted their proposal. Constables are asking for more money. Where would that come from, and just where do you think that everybody stands with that going into today?
Look, we're committed, absolutely committed. As Commissioner Briones mentioned earlier, HPD changed the market on us, and we got to meet that market. And so we have a plan. When we understood what was about to happen, what was the potential of deputies and deputy constables, deputy sheriffs and deputy constables making critical decisions for their families and for themselves, who's to blame them, number one. But as we looked at this, I know through the work of a former chief operations officer, my experience as a former sheriff and as a former council member, I knew immediately where there was potential to save and reinvest that money strategically into those salaries. And I'm proud of the Harris County Deputies Organization because they have sat with us and worked through these details, and we, I think, have come up with a very, very reasonable plan that takes care of law enforcement in Harris County, helps to keep them stable, and helps to keep our unincorporated areas of the county well protected.
¿En español?
The beautiful Spanish-speaking people.
Voy a tratar. Bueno, buenos días a todos. Soy Lesley Briones y primeramente quiero dar las gracias al comisionado Adrian Garcia del Precinto 2. Y estamos aquí y hoy mismo vamos a tener otra discusión sobre el presupuesto del Condado Jerez. Queremos compartir la verdad. Vamos a continuar con todos los servicios que el condado ofrece a ustedes cada día. No va a haber cortes dramáticos, el cielo no está cayendo, jamás. Durante el tiempo que nosotros estamos aquí, estamos haciendo el trabajo duro para encontrar unas maneras para ahorrar dinero, para encontrar efficiencies para ustedes. Estamos invirtiendo y bien enfocados en la seguridad, en la infraestructura y la salud pública, que son responsabilidades del condado fundamentales. No va a haber cortes así, todo va a continuar. Vamos a mejorar los salarios de nuestras fuerzas de orden, todo el equipo del alguacil y también de los constables, porque la policía de Houston ha aumentado el salario y no queremos que nuestras fuerzas del orden, del alguacil o constables, que se vayan, porque tienen que proteger a ustedes y sus familias en el área unincorporated del Condado Jerez. Vamos a continuar con los espacios verdes y los centros comunitarios. También de la salud pública, todas las clínicas móviles van a continuar. Así que los datos y la información correcta es sí vamos a tomar decisiones difíciles, pero nosotros no queremos aumentar o subir sus impuestos. Yo crecí en una familia que vivimos cheque al cheque. Y yo sé que muchas familias están sufriendo con esta economía. Así que jamás, antes de hacer el trabajo difícil de encontrar estas efficiencies, pero vamos a continuar con el apoyo de la comunidad, vamos a hacer como colegas estas decisiones. El condado Jerez está en una condición bien y vamos a continuar así, porque eso es lo que ustedes y sus familias merecen. Así que muchísimas gracias y agradecemos todos que vinieron a nuestros centros comunitarios para hacer el Budget Town Hall. Muchísimas gracias.
All right,
Can
thank
you
you.
talk about how challenging it has been, and I guess, to try to work with the county judge and other commissioners to try to get on track and try to get the budget all balanced and approved? Or talk about some of the challenges you all have faced?
I'll just say that the biggest challenge is misinformation. And the biggest frustration I personally have had, can't speak for anyone else, is to create a concern, a false narrative that services were being cut, that decision had already been made. As Commissioner Briones laid out, we asked our department directors, and I want to give thanks to every single one of them because they made tough decisions, and they met the challenge. They gave us a budget that would cut 10% off their line, but they maintained services. They were able to maintain near optimum services, and that's what you do through this process. So the biggest frustration for me is, one, a bit of misinformation, and secondly, the just outright false narrative that property taxes were going to be raised and that services are being cut. That's been the biggest frustration. So I need your help to get that message out, that today the work is being done.
And I'll add, so I'm a lawyer and I used to be one of your civil court judges. Facts matter deeply to me. Credible evidence matters deeply to me. Show your math, show your work, put in the time and effort to actually dig and find these strategic, smart ways to do more with less. So I want conversations based on facts, not drama or hysteria. And so again, as one of your commissioners, I'm honored to be able to be here and put in the time and effort to make sure that we're stretching your taxpayer dollars, making hard decisions, but in a way that continues the core services and in a way that's more strategic and effective for you.
Will those, with the services, 10%, are there gonna be any cuts to employees, County County?
No proposed layoffs. And that's the beauty of working together over 8 months, that you get to find those efficiencies that, and our commitment has always been taking care of our employees, whether they be law enforcement or civilian employees in whatever areas of operation. But where we did find a great deal of opportunity were funded positions that had not been filled for months. And so that communicated to us, that position's been vacant, maybe we can save those salary dollars. So we are taking care of our employees, we're taking care of the public, we're keeping our core essential services without being negatively impacted, and we're keeping the county moving forward.
Or some of these departments that were allegedly going to be cut, some of the misinformation you guys are speaking about, were they reaching out to you all saying, hey, what's going on, or?
No,
None of that?
I will simply tell you that over 8 months, there's been a number of conversations. That's the work we're talking about. We, the directors knew what we were up against, and they worked with us. Every part of county government, commissioners and directors, budget director, all sitting together, looking at the data, looking at the lines, seeing where there's efficiencies, where there's opportunity, the technology efficiencies that Commissioner Briones mentioned, all those things, all those were details that were being worked on and discussed over 8 months, not over the last couple of days. No one woke up, at least we didn't wake up yesterday and say, oh my God, what are we going to do? There's been a lot of work put into this.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a multi-month process that's highly collaborative, and departments meet with the budget office, they submit their own proposed ideas. There will be department budget hearings that are open to the public that we invite you to. So that, again, they meet with all 5 offices. This is highly iterative, highly collaborative. And I, again, want to thank Director Daniel Ramos and his team, because they have really just created a just intense, robust, transparent process that includes now community town halls about the budget that we didn't have until 2023. And again, we want the public's input on your priorities.
All right. Thank you,
All
guys.
right, thank you.
Thank you.